Hello and welcome back. And I'm finally getting on with a problem I've had on this TD5 Land Rover for quite some months, actually probably running into years, where I've got what is commonly known as a parasitic drain on the battery. I've put probably 2 batteries on this truck in the last 3 years, which is way more than you would expect. Most batteries these days, starter batteries, are warranted for at least 3 years. Some are 4, some maybe 2, but generally on average about 3 years warranty. And the first one that I did have on here that failed, I did send it back under warranty, and there was something wrong with it. But since then, we've had another battery on it and exactly the same has happened. And it's quite likely that the battery that was on it that I got warranty for was damaged by the car, because at the moment I'm using this Land Rover pretty regularly, almost on a daily basis. But what's normally happens is that I use this periodically when I need to tow something, or I need specifically to carry something that I can't put in the car, and that doesn't happen particularly often. Most of my equipment and tools and everything are at a different, my garage, my workshop, which is not where I live, and I don't normally need to carry stuff around in the Land Rover, so I can get there by car, so I don't use the Land Rover. But at the moment circumstances mean I'm using the Land Rover on a regular basis. But normally what happens is the Land Rover will sit maybe 3 weeks, possibly a month at a time, without a battery conditioner. And we've had this car 10 years, and it's only been in the last 2 or 3 years where it started to really play up, because you come to it after 3 weeks and the battery's flat. And I sort of thought, well, it's the alarm is draining, or something's draining it that's normal because we're not using it. It's just a normal drain, and I'll have to put a conditioner on. But it turns out that I stopped alarming the car and just put a crook lock or a steering lock on the steering wheel to keep it secure, so that people weren't tempted to try and nick it. And still I had the same problem. It has an immobiliser which is constant, so every time the car switched off, the immobiliser kicks in. So that is not disconnected, but it is not alarmed. So you could break into the car and the alarm would not go off. You wouldn't be able to start it, but the alarm wouldn't go off. So that's one less thing that's going to drain the battery. And that hasn't changed. The battery still drains over 3 weeks to a month. And what I want to do is I want to find out how much current draw there is on the car while it is idle and doing nothing and sitting there. Now, it's a 24-year-old car, 2001. It has got an ECU on it with an OBD connector, but it's not computer controlled in such a way that a modern car is, where modern cars need constant feed to keep them alive while they're sitting doing nothing. And if you leave a modern car for more than a month, 6 weeks at a time, without a good battery on it, that battery is going to go flat, because the computers are still alive in some small capacity and they are draining the battery a very small amount. If you don't put a conditioner on or a trickle charger or whatever, those batteries are going to go flat. Not so much on this car, because it's so much older. The computer doesn't need to stay alive. I haven't got central locking on it. I haven't got any other security. The security that's on it, the alarm, that is a third-party aftermarket fit. I think it's a Cobra alarm from memory, without looking. I haven't looked recently, I can't remember. And it does its job when it's alarmed, and it does its job for the immobiliser. But it might still be the fact that is what's draining the battery. But we hadn't had the problem up until about 3 years ago, and I've just basically nursed it, and I put another battery on it. I got one under warranty, then it happened again, so I thought, well, I can't be too cheeky and do it again. I'm pretty certain, and I've had another battery on since, and that has done the same thing. And it's the battery that I normally use for one of my tractors, and that's been blindingly good. And now it's come onto the Land Rover, and they're thinking about 6 months, it's gone. It's basically had it. So yeah, this is what I'm up to today, trying to find a parasitic drain on my TD5, because I need this car over the summer. We've got some rallies to go to, and I need it for carrying some stuff around, and I need to put a battery on it, a new one, because this battery's had it. And I don't want to be putting another battery on it in 12 months time, having knackered a new one. So that's what I'm up to. So let's see what we can find out. Now on this TD5, it's a TD5 90, as in short wheelbase. Battery is under the passenger seat in our case. You can see that the battery is there under the seat. At the moment I've got jump leads on it because I'm slaving it from a smaller battery that I've got spare and it's sitting around, and that's just sitting there. And that is a good battery, and I just disconnect it as I need when I'm not using the car, and when I'm using the car I just connect it up so that the car will start, because this battery here is absolutely knackered. It was on my tractor, or one of my tractors, and it's been perfectly fine for about 2-3 years. It's a Varta and came from Tainer batteries. I'm not quite sure how long I've had it. I'll have a date on it somewhere I expect, but it's now knackered, and it only became knackered after being on here. It was perfectly fine on the tractors, and yeah, so I've got to get to the bottom of why the batteries are failing so much. Right, so how are we going to check what current flow we've got, which is basically draining this battery? Now, every multimeter has an amp meter capability, but only up to a maximum of 10 amps. In other words, if you put any more than 10 amps through the multimeter, you will blow the fuse. Now, when you look at the terminal connections, you've got black is the common, that's always the same, and you've got your normal voltage stroke resistance terminal there, which is where you'd normally put your red lead, and then over to the left you've got milliamps and 10 amps, and this meter will read AC amps and DC amps, same as it reads AC voltage and DC voltage. And I've got it in the 10 amp and the common, and you have to connect the meter in series with the circuit. In other words, I've got the terminal for the battery, the main terminal, disconnected from the battery, and I've connected in series my meter from the black wire on the post to the red wire through the meter onto the main positive wire for the or cable for the car. Now, as long as I don't try and start the car or turn the ignition on and run the fuel pump, this should stay under 10 amps. What did for this one was I turned the ignition on and the fuel pump started, which pulled over 15 amps, and that's what blew the fuse in here. So as long as I don't turn the ignition on and run the fuel pump, I should be good to go, and I should be able to simulate the current draw that is currently happening with ignition off over there, nothing running on there at all, and as soon as I switch on the multimeter, it will create a circuit in there between the battery post to the cable, and we should read an amperage reading on there. So I've got my multimeter on, I'm on 10 amps DC, I'm on 10 amps in the terminal, common in the common terminal, and if I connect the meter in series, it's all switched on, we should see a reading. Straight away we got 0.33 of an amp, and you can hear something buzzing, and that's just switched off. And now I've got 0.1 of an amp, and that is a constant drain on this battery. Now the immobiliser or the alarm are not armed at the moment, but what was buzzing was my CD player. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to disconnect the CD player, I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to disconnect it and see if that loses that current draw. Right, well I've got my radio out, and there's a whole cat's breakfast of wiring at the back, so that has all been wired in at some point in its life. And I do have some problems with this, because when I'm using it, and it's stopped working at the moment, when I'm using it sometimes it just cuts out because it comes up with telephone mute or something, and there's telephone mute written on there. In other words, it thinks the telephone's connected, so it shuts the radio off. So there's obviously something wrong with this. But now if I just disconnect my battery lead here, my meter lead, I'm gone down to 0 on there, so there's no current draw because I've got an open circuit, of course. As soon as I put that together, I get 0.3, nearly half a volt. You can hear that is buzzing away. That sounds like that's a CD drive. and we're on now. That stopped buzzing. Now that's whatever's happening in there, now that's stopped happening. I've got 0.9, so that's basic 0.09, so basically that's 0.1 of an amp on a draw. If I disconnect the radio, like so, look what happens to my current. It drops to 0.02, 0.03, and I think if you can look under there, that's my immobiliser. I haven't alarmed the car, but here we have got a significant drop in current. Disconnected. Everything else is switched off. If I arm the car with the alarm, you can see the light flashing. The car is now alarmed, even though I'm sat in it. And we've still got 0.02 of an amp being drawn. If I turn on the interior light, I've got 0.74 of an amp. If I turn on the one in the back, I've got 1.45 of an amp. So we know, and there's the alarm. That's me moving in the car. Turn off the lights. That's me shutting it down. That's it starting again. I think we're done. Right, well that's another job ticked off the list, and it's a major one for me because this car, I need to have it reliable, and clearly having a slave battery in the footwell is not convenient, and it's not safe either. Please do not try this at home. If you're going to do anything like this, make sure that you know what you're doing, and don't allow it to tip over and spill acid all over your floor. I mean, I'm doing this because I know what I'm up to, and it's a Land Rover, so it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But yeah, clearly if you're going to do it like I'm doing it, you're going to cause problems if you don't keep your wits about you. So I don't endorse my methods, but it works for me, and that's what matters in my case. But definitely this CD unit, radio, whatever, is drawing 110 milliamps when it's doing nothing at all and the engine is switched off and the ignition is off. That is too much of a parasitic draw on the battery, and over time it's basically failed my battery, and that's as simple as that. So this is faulty. It stopped working anyway, so I'm going to ditch it, and I don't generally listen to the radio in this car anyway. It's too noisy, whatever happens. So yeah, we'll get rid of it, and I can put a new battery on and get on with using the truck for what it's meant to be used for, which is towing tractors around and moving stuff that I can't put in the car. So good one, good result. Well, thank you for watching. If you like the video, please click the like button. If you're not subscribed and you want to keep up with our mechanical adventures, then please put a subscription on. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can see what we're doing. Got plenty of playlists up, all sorts of stuff, classic cars, vintage tractors, and everything else in between. Until the next one, take care, thank you for watching, and bye for now.